Without any further delay, let's begin today's e-commerce series event, Developing a Viable E-commerce Strategy. Are you ready? I'd like to introduce your moderator for today's event, Natasha Edwin Walcott, Senior Advisor, Competitiveness and Export Promotion for Caribbean Export Development Agency. Natasha, you have the floor.
Thank you, Caroline, and good morning, everyone. On behalf of Caribbean Export Development Agency, let me welcome you to our second installment in this four-part e-commerce webinar series. As Caroline said, my name is Natasha Edwin Walcott. I am the Senior Advisor, Competitiveness and Export Promotion here at Caribbean Export. Before I move to the topic of today, I would just like to give a short overview for those of you joining us from outside the region, an overview of Caribbean Export, what we do, who we are. So we are a trade and development agency. We also do some work in investment promotion, and our role effectively is to enhance competitiveness of Caribbean goods. We assist SMEs to reach competitiveness. We principally focused on some sectors such as agro-processing, manufacturing, renewable energy. We also focus on ICT and creative industries. Our funding principally is from the European Union. And over the years, we have brought out a number of interventions that have assisted these companies over the years. Today, as Caroline mentioned, we have, I'm so sorry, I'm having some issues here. As Caroline mentioned, our topic for today is developing a viable e-commerce strategy. We will look at the necessary features for a viable e-commerce strategy, what you need to consider to get started, and if you're already established and in the space, how you can improve. We have a wonderful team with us from FNIV. They're a regional company focused on using technology and social engineering delivery solutions that can help people live better. With offices in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Jamaica, the USA, and India, the group is dedicated to and invested in bridging the divide that SMEs in the developing countries face when attempting to gain efficiency, make a profit, and bring the products to a global marketplace. So the team, if I can just introduce the team briefly, we have Novia McKay, and she's the business development strategist. She's the project manager, trainer, and facilitator and communication specialist with FNIV. We have also Cleo Huggins. She is the marketing specialist. She is a former executive director of Invest SVG and that is the investment promotion agency of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Also with us is Gilbert Williams, CEO and founder of FNIV. Gilbert is a business analyst and ICT solutions engineer and has spent the last 2 decades delivering solutions for government agencies, NGOs, and MSMEs across 3 continents in the Caribbean. We also have the benefit of having, we will also hear some lived experience from an entrepreneur, Kevin Alexander. He is an investor, a speaker, and experienced in direct response marketing. And he's also an accomplished copywriter. He is the CEO and founder of One Stop Web Surf, a digital marketing firm. So with this brief introduction, I pass over the floor to Novia, who will commence the presentation.
Thank you so much, Natasha, and a hearty welcome to all who are joining us. Thank you for taking your time to spend with us today to learn a little bit more and give us some of your questions around how we can enable the Caribbean region to take advantage of the tremendous opportunities in e-commerce. Today, we'll be giving you some advanced information, and this is our team that was just introduced by Natasha. Myself, Gilbert Williams, Cleo Huggins, and Kevin Alexander. We'll be joining you today to speak on Are You Ready for E-commerce? Last week's webinar was an excellent introduction and overview to the overall potentials of a global e-commerce market. What we want to do in this session and in others to come is to localize that approach to say, how can you, we, us, as Caribbean organizations, position ourselves to take advantage or greater advantage of some of the opportunities in e-commerce. I'm going to actually start with introducing our first poll and ask everyone to respond. Do you currently have an e-commerce strategy? Yes, no, or in development? And if you don't know what an e-commerce strategy is or never heard of one before, not to worry. Our presentation today is going to help to give you that introduction. So if you could take a moment and respond to the poll question, I'm going to switch in about 10 more seconds to see the responses so that we can get an idea of the different persons in the room and the stage that your organization is already in with regards to an e-commerce strategy. Okay. All right. So I hope most persons had a chance to respond. So far, we see that about half of you or half of us on the line here don't actually have an e-commerce strategy yet, about 53%, while a third of us do have some form of strategy in development, and a smaller percentage, maybe about 10% or 13%, already have an e-commerce strategy. Now, not to worry, that is completely expected, and we understand that this is the case. In fact, in the Caribbean, most small, medium, and micro enterprises do not really have a digital presence, and even more of them don't actually have an e-commerce strategy that has been defined or written down. And that's part of why we're here today and why we're so grateful for Caribbean Exports to facilitate this type of discussion so that those of you who are interested in the potential of this market can continue to take some tangible steps towards this creating an e-commerce strategy. So I'm going to go ahead with the assumption that everyone on the room today actually knows what e-commerce is. But what I will start to say is that up to today, which is in 2020, the global e-commerce sales are at 27 trillion. And we are not yet at the point of having maximized the potential for online sales. I'm sure we can attest that during these last few months where most people around the world have been in some form of stay-at-home order, we've had to now adjust and shift to purchasing or delivering goods and services more online. That trend, folks, is only going to continue. The world is not going to go back to exactly how it was before, which is why, again, I think it's great that organizations such as Carib Export are recognizing this trend and seeking to support and facilitate you. Now, before you get to your strategy, it's important that you have an understanding or context for what it really means to position yourself adequately for an e-commerce strategy. It's important to have an understanding first that e-commerce is not only putting a product online and getting a sale. E-commerce is much wider than that, and especially successful e-commerce. It brings together several different elements that your customers will never see. It's supply chain management, it's inventory management, it's internet marketing and digital marketing, which unfortunately many of us in the Caribbean are not practicing to a high degree, are not very familiar with. It's also transaction processing, how to accept payments. And of course, it is data collection. How do you make use of the information that you gather from your social footprint and convert it into online sales? So your e-commerce strategy, the first thing is to recognize that it is an ecosystem of different elements that work together to create the greatest chance of success. Now, which type of companies or services can go to e-commerce? Right now, just about any kind. There's traditional retail, there's wholesale and distribution from businesses to other businesses. There are even new and trending forms of e-commerce, such as drop shipping and drop servicing, which I will let you check out on your own. Services such as crowdfunding, subscription services, selling digital products and services. So while we tend to think of e-commerce being a tangible or physical product, the world is expanding such that intangible services are now also being traded online. So have no fear. If your primary business is not oriented towards a physical product, you too can develop an e-commerce strategy and be successful in e-commerce once you have actually gotten the context and understood how to position your business. Now, just a quick overview. Different e-commerce business models include those that sell to consumers. That's the most commonly used model. But in fact, business-to-business e-commerce is actually the greatest revenue and highest volume. So traditional companies such as IBM, Microsoft, MailChimp that actually sell to other companies, they tend to bring in the highest volume of sales and the highest revenue, even though we traditionally think about only selling directly to consumers. There's also consumer-to-consumer exchange. It is less popular, but there are some big names out there in that business, such as eBay, for instance. And then mobile e-commerce, which has to do with developing applications and providing other services, traditionally using mobile technology. It includes things like ticket sales and event management and location-based services, mobile banking, etc. So as you can see, there is a variety of different business models that you can employ depending on what your core service is. Now, to give some further context, it's important for us to understand what's happening in our region, Latin America and the Caribbean. There is a tremendous scope to increase our footprint of e-commerce, although there are some barriers as well. Now, our region, the e-commerce sales have reached about US $47 billion in 2015, and that is seeing tremendous growth from the previous years. However, what you'll see in my next slide is that we really represent a very small portion of the overall e-commerce market. Important to know in terms of your strategy is that e-commerce is largely driven by millennials. And of course, those are persons who are born in the late 90s, early 2000s onwards. By 2025, 75% of the global workforce will be millennials. So that's a great advantage. If we can understand and in your strategy take into consideration that the primary purchasers and purveyors of online sales are those who are 30 and under, then that gives you a sense of how to position the products that you might want to sell online and the services that you may want to explore providing. Another thing to note is that in our region here, the most popular products that are actually sold online are entertainment related, electronic and information technology, food and clothing. That's where we're seeing the highest growth right now and highest uptake of purchases on e-commerce websites. As I mentioned earlier, a tremendous scope is there. Right now, we are only seeing about one or call it less than 2% of our total sales are going to online, right? And whereas the rest of the world are trending towards 78% of their sales. So as you can see, there is huge space to make up in terms of putting additional products and services on the market and then driving sales. There is plenty of space for all of the businesses and organizations who want to take advantage of your e-commerce strategy. So don't fear the fact that others might be getting into the same business because the market is there, right? Currently, the Latin American region, again, a very small, our global share of e-commerce is only 2%. So there is a wealth of prosperity there in terms of e-commerce. We just need to understand how to position ourselves to take advantage of it. Now, why is it that we have not yet made up the market share? Again, your strategy should understand what are some of the barriers that you may encounter and have to work against, some of the risks that you will face when you're developing your strategy. The main ones are institutional and then also on the personal organizational level. Now, the reality is that the Caribbean has not yet caught up with the rest of the world in terms of the legislation to support e-commerce, as well as the logistics infrastructure. So you recognize that there are also opportunities there for those of you who are in logistics enterprises to exploit and help the e-commerce in the region to manifest more successfully. There are also some institutional barriers, but I believe that the presence of Caribbean Exports, CARICOM, Invest SVG, and other organizations in this conversation shows that there is an increasing commitment to removing some of those institutional barriers. Then there are also personal or individual challenges that some of you will need to you'll need to think about it, acknowledge it, and overcome it. Many of us are concerned about technology. We don't know if it's safe. Many of us feel like e-commerce is not for us, that it's too hard to do, that we wouldn't know where to start. I'm a creative, I make things or I produce things. I don't know about digital marketing. I don't know about white labeling or whitelisting or blacklisting. So it can seem to be daunting. But in your strategy, just take it piece by piece as we're going to guide you, and you will be able to take advantage of the successes. Some are also concerned about the initial costs. However, as business people, we know that there is no business without some form of cost. But as I mentioned earlier, with e-commerce having trillions of dollars in potential, I am certain that if you have a successful strategy, the value will outweigh the costs. Now, in your strategy, there are some things that you'll have to take into consideration regarding our customers here in the Latin America and the Caribbean region. In our region, there are fears around the security of cards, using credit cards. Credit card penetration is lower in this region than many other regions, and many persons have expressed concerns about safety in terms of their cards. So that's something that you have to take into consideration, and we'll speak more about that in our subsequent webinar, where we'll talk about different payment options that you can help to promote the sense of security for customers that may have a fear around it. There's also concerns around fulfillment. Customers are concerned, how long is it going to take for me to get my item? I'm in a small island. If I want something from the US or from Suriname or from Jamaica, am I going to have to wait a month to get it? Some countries may have issues with the accuracy of local addresses, which of course we know that an address is key. So to take into consideration in your strategy, how will you reassure your client base? How will you put measures in place to support successful fulfillment? And finally, people have concerns about quality. I'm sure we've all had the experience of purchasing something, and when we received it, it wasn't what we expected. That's actually a common failing of many new and early entrants into e-commerce. We don't necessarily guarantee or provide exactly what the customer is expecting. So your strategy, and in particular your product strategy, which I'm going to speak about next, should really take into consideration how can you best describe and ensure that you produce according to what your clients are expecting. So having given you that context, I hope that you're now thinking more along the lines of, okay, these are how I can position myself or my company. We're going to talk now for the rest of the presentation more specifically about an easy way to structure your e-commerce strategy. Some of us may feel that we have to hire an external consultant or have a special expertise to build a strategy, but really and truly, with adequate research, knowledge of what you want to maximize, you can actually make a strategy that can be viable and get support for having it executed. Our recommendation is that your strategy look at 3 critical areas: your product strategy, your operations strategy, and your marketing strategy. So I have a follow-up question for those of you who either have a strategy in development or already have a strategy. Do you include elements addressing product, operations, and marketing in your current strategy? Please let us know in the poll. All right, I'm going to go ahead. I hope everyone has had a chance to vote. All right, so we have a crowd here that already knows what they're doing. The greatest thing is that you recognize that an e-commerce strategy is multifaceted and multidimensional. So since those of you who have already started or are in development are aware of these 3 different areas, We're going to speak briefly so that we can help some of the other folks on the call who maybe have not yet started or are not quite sure in what we really mean when we say a product operations and marketing strategy. Now, in terms of a product strategy, if you deal in hardcore tangible products or even in services, one of the first questions that your strategy should address is which products you should sell online. Now, if you have 25 different products, say you're a creative or some other form of producer, it doesn't mean that you have to start selling every single one of them online. You have had successful e-commerce sites that sell only one product. Warby Parker, which many of you may know, is an eyeglass distributor. They actually really only have one product, and their product is eyeglasses. However, they have been very successful at marketing that product using a particular approach. Similarly with Tom's. Tom's only sells shoes and one type of shoes, but with a combination of a heavy social presence, they're able to successfully market that product. So in selecting which product, you should keep in mind, is your product already experiencing a strong demand? Is it a product that you actually have persons interested in buying already? Are your products standard and reproducible? Should you get a great interest in your product, would you then be able to rapidly turn around an order of 500, 1,000, 10,000 products? If the answer is no, you may not want to start with that product, or you may want to address your operation strategy to actually turn up your ability to produce or turn around your products. Does your product have restrictions on freshness or expiration? It may seem like an obvious question, but some products don't hold up well for a longer shipping and delivery or fulfillment process. If that is the case, then you should consider a product that can withstand being transported by air, by sea, otherwise. And another question is, do you have a quality control process to ensure that your products are standard? They all look the same, they all smell the same, they all deliver the same service or benefit. These are some of the things that will make or break an e-commerce platform. If a customer comes online and your product is ordered today and they order it again and it's different, immediately they're going to have a question about, can I trust what I'm ordering? So your product selection is very, very important, and your product strategy starts long before you put your product online. Another consideration for your strategy is if you offer services or multiple products, are there ways to vary or bundle them to give greater value? We are in the world of discounts and people expect sales all the time. So how can you show the value of what it is that you're offering? I'm going to pause here to ask a question. Of Kevin from One Stop Web Spot. Kevin, are you online?
I am online. Yes, hi.
Hi. All right, Kevin, in your experience, what is a top recommendation that you have when choosing a product to start selling online?
It's so many different things, right? So it's not just one top recommendation. It depends on the business. It depends on so many different things. I would say the first thing you want to do is to sell something that people want. That's the first thing, right? So you have to do a little research to figure out where's the market for the product and what is the demand, right? So you always want to be getting yourself in the flow of where the demand is and just getting a piece of that instead of trying to generate and create demand, right? And it also depends. Is it a physical product? Does it have a long shelf life, like the things that you were just discussing? So there's so many different variables. Do you want to add something more specific, or like what would you like me to kind of speak about? Because there's so many different variables with that.
Can you give us either a success or horror story of a particular product that you have either worked with or supported another business to bring online?
Yeah, so I have done a lot of physical products. I was, I went to China physically a few times and went to the different markets that they had there and picked out. I was doing electronics some years ago. And I have a ton of horror stories. I'll try to keep it short. So I was doing electronics, and what happened was I was white labeling the electronics. So I was at the factory bringing them in. It was when dual SIM phones were not even known about yet. Those two SIMs, you can put two SIM cards in a phone. So I was in China when I saw that, and I purchased some, and I brought it back to Trinidad to sell it. So this is a little bit reverse, I guess, because I'm bringing from China into Trinidad to sell it. But the point is, I did not know the culture in China, and I did not know that they try to give you the cheapest thing. So when I brought those dual SIM phones in, there were some issues with quality. And when I touched base with my supplier, if I paid just a little bit extra, I would get a lot more quality, right? So there's so many different things, but that's a horror story where I kind of learned that I have to ask, like, give me the best, right? And it's not that much more money. So it's just understanding the culture of when you do it, if you're dealing with countries like China and factories and things like that. But in terms of an e-commerce stuff that I have done, I did some supplements on Amazon. I was selling supplements on Amazon, and I had some successes selling the supplements on Amazon. It was really a matter of looking at the shelf life and figuring out how much I have to order, because I was ordering from a factory, a lab basically. So I had to kind of look at that and manage my inventory. But besides that, on selling on Amazon, what I needed to move the product was great reviews. So I would do different things like giving away a free product in exchange for a review, and different things just to generate reviews. Because on Amazon, that's what pushes the sale, right? Great reviews on the product.
Great. I'm glad that you mentioned that, but I actually want you to just give a quick explanation for those of us who may not know. You mentioned earlier white labeling of products. Could you give us a little hint as to what exactly that means?
Okay, so white labeling is basically, I have a company. So back when I was doing the supplements, the name of my company was Nutrition Logics. So I was selling things like vitamins, colon cleanser, and all these healthy, natural supplements. So I would go to a lab in the US, and they would have what they call off-the-shelf products that they already create. And they would have labels explaining all the different ingredients in the products, and some documentation talking about all the health benefits and different things like that. So if I wanted to just get in business quickly, I can buy their off-the-shelf products, and I can white label it by having my label slapped on it. And it would be marketed by me or my company as my own product. And that's very common in the supplement industry. And that is different from if I'm creating a specific, unique, and proprietary blend that is not off the shelf. Then I have to go through a lot of more. There's a lot of things for it to pass certain regulations, GMP, good manufacturing practices, and different things like that. And then you have to spend more money up front. So if I'm doing my own proprietary blend, I have to spend maybe $20,000 US to get the minimum order quantity may be much higher when you have to do your own blend, as opposed to you getting something off the shelf. You can buy less. You can buy 500 bottles or 1,000 bottles or something like that. So that's the main difference between white labeling and running your own products with respect to supplements.
Thank you. And that's a great insight. Many of you out there are creatives, are makers, but some may not be. So the important thing is for e-commerce, you don't necessarily have to start by producing your own version. If you want to get your presence out there, you could start with a related product that you white label while you actually perfect your own brand. Kevin, thanks so much. Natasha, do we have a question from the audience that we'd like to take at this time, or shall we move on?
Just bear with me. We have a few.
Any related on the product side?
No, you can proceed.
Okay, awesome. So that was a brief introduction into some of the key elements to start your product-related strategy. And of course, there is much more. But considering that we are on a short webinar today and giving you an introduction, I'm going to pass the baton over to Gilbert, who is now going to speak more about your operation strategy, which is all the work behind the scenes that goes through making a successful e-commerce platform. Go ahead, Gilbert. Bert, are you muted?
Sorry about that. Yeah, welcome to the webinar. And to follow up with as from Novia, I hope I can follow that act. Operation is a part of the e-commerce that you don't see, but it's real. So as a consumer shopping on a website, everything operates in the cloud. You make a few clicks and products are delivered to your door with the right process. But in the back end, vendors and entrepreneurs have the real operations that take place. I'm going to try to walk you through that journey and what you need to do as a small business in order to be efficient in that aspect of it. So there are several types of businesses that operate within that space. And as Novia mentioned earlier, you have to decide where it is that you want to function. Because operations is different based on what you're doing here. Is it a B2B, a B2C? Or is business to business, business to consumer to consumer, like say eBay, consumer to administrative, as if you're a consumer and you're selling services to government agents, or you're a business and you're selling to government agencies and other agencies, non-for-profit as well. So your e-commerce strategy would need to take into consideration a couple of things. Your talent. Do you have the talent in-house to manage an e-commerce platform? Do you have a process in place that manages these operations? Do you have the technology in place to manage the operations? Based on these things, you are going to have to decide, what is it I'm going to do? First, we try to figure out, where are you as a business? Meaning, what is my current standing, and where do I want to go? What is the product that I have, and how do I want to sell it? Hold on 1 second. Here. One second. Sorry for the delay. All right. So for us, planning, or for you, planning is critical. You must have a plan if you're going to enter the e-commerce space. There's a tremendous opportunity for e-commerce in the Caribbean, not just because of COVID. This has been there. I think developing countries, countries with a high migration rate, like Caribbean countries and developing countries, have a unique opportunity. Caribbean immigrants, the Caribbean diaspora, yearly remit $20 billion in formal remittances to the Caribbean. It says to me, and it says to us, that there is a flow of currency, of cash and currency into the Caribbean, but also there's an informal remittance process. Setting yourself up properly in e-commerce means you can capture a significant amount of that revenue stream. I just got a message saying that my lighting is terrible. I'm really sorry about that. I think messing up, and I'm really sorry about that. I think that might be a little bit better. Okay, I'm really sorry about that. Yes, so there's a significant revenue stream that is being flowed to developing countries from the diaspora populations, and small businesses, medium-sized businesses, businesses who are entering the e-commerce space need to set themselves up properly for that. That operations is really, really important. So first and foremost, a consumer comes to browse your website. You have already chosen a platform, whether it be your own website, a platform, whether it be Amazon, Etniv, eBay, Etsy. You're on that platform. You have given them the ability to shop and actually purchase something. You would have given them a receipt of the end of sale, and package would be delivered at some point. So, very, very important as we move along in the process is images and content is critical to your product's behavior. Images increase the sales of product by 80. Your consumer does not have the ability to touch and feel your product, so they're going to read what you tell them about the product. So finding the resources to write proper content, take proper images is very, very important. Also, you need to interact, not just communicate, but interact with the consumers. So this could be done via WhatsApp, chat, email, social media, or voice. Provide a platform where your consumers can communicate with you regularly and in a very formative manner. Right? So this may mean you're available to answer questions about your product. It also means that you give these consumers the ability to post content about your product. That is also very important. So you have to find yourself in that position. 3. So here we go with the flow. All right, so the customer journey. The customer buys, browse, they put something in the shopping cart. So what takes place as that happens? Now, your inventory, which is critical, I have a couple of ways that you can do this. You can say, I'm going to set, if you're already doing a brick and mortar operation, okay, I'm going to set aside a certain amount of my inventory to take care of online sales. And I'm going to set aside a certain amount of my inventory for my brick and mortar sales. That is one way of doing it. The other way of doing this is to have inventory management tool and tied in with a point of sale system that monitors inventory in both sides, your brick and mortar and your online sales. So now you have an omni-channel business that's now taken online and it's now brick and mortar. And you have to understand your different consumer base. Your online and your brick and mortar, those might be different. Now you can position products to suit both of those markets. Let's say you're serving a particular local market with your products, from your brick and mortar store, and you're serving a particular online concept market with your online stores. Those may not be in the same geographical location. So you could do things like resizing your product, relabeling your product, do a different formula of your product for the local market and for the online market. You could do things like different pricing based on those things. So we know that selling an item online is probably going to cost you more if you have to ship. So we resize, we relabel, and we reprice this product for online sales. Hence, you may have to keep those inventories separate, right? So there are possibilities here. You also have to make sure that you have a payment solution, various payment method. We know that there's a challenge with payment solution. We're going to take this up in our next webinar where we talk about what's available there. There are a couple of different businesses, fintech companies that are emerging in the Caribbean. There's some older ones. And we find that a number of the banks are now providing solutions for e-commerce payments. Packaging your products. So your labeling. As I see in that slide, yes. So your labeling is important. And this is the opportunity for you to make sure that your packages is handled with care. So you're managing the entire journey of your sale when you decide to do e-commerce. Or unless you decide that Kevin has done, where he white labels a lot of this stuff and has it drop ship. So you're managing how your package is labeled. What is going into that packaging? Are you putting promotional material in there? What is your courier relationships like? So do you have a system in place after an order is placed and you have packaged your goods? You now alert your courier so that they come and pick it up, or you alert the customer so that they now come to your location and pick that up, because those are possibilities as well. We live in a space where we're curtailed by physical barriers. We're divided by oceans and seas. So we have to find ways of moving packages around within our physical geographical locations and using other couriers, whether it's UPS, Swiftpack, DHL. So we have to figure out, you have to figure out how you're going to go about and which shipping agency you're going to use to deliver your package. Again, this is another opportunity to communicate with your customers. Because at the end of the day, what you want to do as part of your operations is move your customers from a customer relationship type of a situation to where they becomes your sales agent. You want your customers to become your fan, and you want your customer to go out and sell your products on your behalf. So you have to, this entire journey leads to a conversation with your customers. Second. So as a business, the delivery portion of this now takes place. So there is a handoff. You have to find a way to track the shipment of that package and verify a handoff. This is critical, right? Because the chain of custody that takes place as that package moves across using couriers that move across that geographical location or different geographical locations. So we have to make sure that those packages, especially if when there's an insurance policy involved and there are fragile goods involved, and there is, as I said, you're building a relationship with the consumer. The consumer has to be able to track that package. You have to be able to say, well, I shipped it correctly, the courier collected it correctly, and it was delivered correctly to the correct person. Again, you interact with your customers at the end of that transaction. You speak to them via WhatsApp, chat, email, and you ensure that they are satisfied with what they have. You should also have a return process in place. If the customer is not satisfied, there should be a process in place where they can return that product for you. This is not an expense. This is an investment. Customers feel much, much more comfortable knowing that they can return that product just in case they bought something and it doesn't work for them. Building a relationship during those returns is very important. So don't worry about the one product that is being returned. Think about, okay, if this product is returned and I serve this customer well, maybe they buy something else. And you can say, well, I'm sorry for the inconvenience of you having to return this product. Here is a 10% discount on your next purchase. So it invites that person to continue to interact with your business. So we go on to business operation necessities. So these are the things that you need to think about in your operations. The risk management. Move the slides. Right. The risk management. How well is my site protected? Do I have the resources to protect my own website? Am I on a different platform? Am I using a platform like Amazon, eBay, or Etniv? Are those sites well protected? Is my business as a whole protected? Right? You have some platforms where you would build a business on the platform and you would do a significant amount of marketing, but you are still at risk of this platform kicking you off for some reason, or monitoring your sales and replicating your products. Right? So that's that risk. So you have to take those into consideration. Second, your purchase management. As you develop products, it's very important for you to understand what is required for me to develop these products, what is required for me to source the products, And do I have a process in place to replenish what is required to make sure that my products are continually available to my consumers? That's another thing that you have to consider. Customer engagement. So we have to move from an idea of customer management to an idea of customer engagement. So constantly speak to your customers via WhatsApp, via email, via social media, any means necessary to move your customers from that customer relationship to where they become your sales team. You want your customers to be your fan and your sales force. So you treat them well, you communicate with them. And that does not always mean you're giving stuff away. It's a matter of treating people with a matter of respect and giving them value in what you produce. Business intelligence. So you may have started off with a product that you think, this is what I'm going to sell, and this is who I'm going to sell it to. But over a period of time, your sales, based on your analysis, the data that you're getting back from your sales, how much money you're spending on social media, how much money you're spending in your marketing strategies, you would find that this is really not the target market. Like, for instance, a lot of music sites, when they sell music, they would monitor who would be buying that music. As an artist, I would think, okay, the demographics that I'm selling to is black males between the age of 25 and 35 because I'm producing a particular genre. But my sales seems to be going towards Caucasian males between the age of 65 and 75. Big difference, yeah? So where do I now spend my marketing resources, my scarce resources? Where do I put that? Same thing with products. You could do this with products. You would have developed a product for a particular market segment, but it's not tracking there, and your analysis will tell you that. So you have to ensure that when you have a website or you're doing e-commerce, you're getting that constant feedback of data that kind of guides your allocation of scarce resources. I think I was in the right place. Let's move on to the next slide. Logistics management. So we often try, it's one of the things in the Caribbean, when we develop a product, one of the first places we look to sell that product, it's outside of our region. We're looking primarily for export first and foremost. But as I explained earlier, there is a market where we have the diaspora population constantly remitting. And if we give them an option to be able to spend their monies within their local economies, let's say at a supermarket, within, so let's say we take, for instance, a high-low that is based in Jamaica, and a shopper that is someone within the diaspora who lives in New York, buying the groceries rather than packing a barrel, buying the groceries at that local supermarket and delivering it to their families within Jamaica. That means the $200 that you're spending to ship that barrel, right? The clearance, the money that you're spending to clear it from the customs, the time involved in getting it from New York to Jamaica, all those resources, all those monies can be spent directly within local economies, right? Even if you're a small business and you're doing small products, that can be done. And let's just look at the gift. Somebody's birthday comes up and you're literally running late. I can log on to a local flower shop within St. Lucia, purchase a product and have it delivered. So we look at the logistics management within that space now. And we have to learn to use our local transportation, our complex transportation system within those countries to minimize the cost of deliveries within there. I'm not saying not to take your product to a foreign market. I'm saying there's real opportunities local as well. But as we develop that local market, those local consumers begin to spread the word about your product. That can now be taken to regional markets and international markets. Always look into the possibilities of getting a point of sale system. It increases your efficiency of running your business. Having to do stock checks on a daily, monthly, or a yearly basis means that there is a loss of revenue. Not knowing what you have in store can completely trip you up in the e-commerce world. Because on one side, you have your products listed. Someone logs on, they buy that product, but you do not know that when you go to check your stock, it is not available. Now you have to go and communicate to that customer that I really don't have this. Being able to implement a point of sale system would greatly increase that efficiency, especially if it's an omni-channel point of sale system. So it can manage offline, online, and any other channel that you want to engage in. Move on. So, next slide. As Novia mentioned early on, success does not happen in a vacuum. You need your consumers, and you need to move them from consumers to your sales team. So you have to constantly engage with them. 2, policies. When we look at where the United States is in terms of e-commerce, where the United States in terms of e-commerce, where China is in terms of e-commerce, they got there because of policies, government policies in particular. In the United States, there was no tax on online sales, which drove the market towards the online shopping. If I'm living in New York and my tax is 10%, or my tax is 8.75, 8%, or whatever that is, and if I go online, I don't have to pay a tax. The US government forced that online traffic, growing online businesses. Then the people became addicted to the convenience of doing this. 2, the same with China and Alibaba. Government policies and government practices, government subsidies were put in place to allow that market to flourish. I say this to you as small businesses, right? You need to reach out to your local representatives or reach out to your local BSOs like the Export TT or JAMPO in Jamaica. Be a part of those organizations that can support you, right? And have them lobby legislatives so that your products can, so that the whole atmosphere, I just have a minute or so, the whole atmosphere could change so that your products continue to move. The other thing is, as Novia pointed out, when you look at your demographics of who your shoppers are going to be in the near future and who are more adept at technology, you're looking at the future of your business. Engage the future. Engage the student bodies. We actually did something like this in Jamaica a year or 2 ago, where we reached out to UB and had them send us a number of students to help us write content for products that were being sold online with us. You can do this within your local territories, right? So the students were happy for the opportunity to work in real life environments. So if you contact your tertiary bodies, your tertiary education bodies, and ask them if they have a system in place, I'm sure if they don't, they could also reach out for us for help with this stuff, and we could guide them accordingly. That is the end of my presentation. I'll now ask Kevin a couple of questions about operations, as Kevin has done a number of products. Kevin has done non-tangible products as well as tangible products. So I'm going to ask Kevin to explain what the process, what the operations process is like doing tangible products and non-tangible products. Kevin, could you answer that for me, please?
Yeah, Gilbert. So the operations process is extremely different with physical and digital products. Inventory management is the first thing that comes to mind. With digital products, you don't have to worry about inventory management, and you don't run out of stock. So for example, one of the clients that I work with for digital products is a real estate investor. I have a few clients in that niche, real estate investing. So they do real estate investing. They buy and sell homes for profit, and then they teach how to be a real estate investor. So they have home study courses, which some of them were still physical. So they had like physical CDs and DVDs and a manual that they would ship to people, but that's very old school. So that's being done away with, at least in the US. So now the information is being disseminated on membership platforms. So someone would purchase a home study course, and they would have access to it by logging into a website, and there'll be videos and audios, and you'll be able to download a manual and that kind of thing. So that's for digital products. It's much less logistics in terms of delivering a digital product. However, there's a downside to it because it's a lower perceived value sometimes if you don't do certain things, right, to put in front of that. And also it's easier to return, right, because there's nothing to ship back, right? So that's a barrier when you have a physical product that you ship someone. If they don't like it, it's a little bit more difficult to return that, and therefore you have less returns than with a digital product. Is that what you mean in terms of the operations part of it, delivering it, the product?
Yeah, definitely. And I know you have done supplement. What was your operations like for the supplement? Because I think you white labeled that and drop shipped it.
I did not drop ship it. So I white labeled it, and I would order depending on the product. So I had a supplement line, but I had certain products move faster than other products. So part of it was looking at the sales and seeing which products were moving faster. And when I had to restock, I would buy more of that product. But I wasn't drop shipping, so I would ship it into Amazon. I was doing FBA, which is fulfillment by Amazon. So I would ship it into Amazon's warehouses, and they would, take the inventory, and then they would update the backend. So Amazon is doing pretty much what you guys are offering here in terms of managing all that backend stuff for me. So I didn't have to handle that, but I would ship the stuff into Amazon's warehouse. It would take them, depending on how busy they were, maybe 2-3 days, business days, to, after receiving that inventory, to have it ready in stock, and then I would be able to sell it. So that's what it was for Amazon. So I didn't have to do any drop shipping. I was doing FBA.
All right, so you sent your products to Amazon. Was there an additional cost for Amazon to do that for you?
Absolutely. So they call it pick and pack, and they have all these little fees. Everything, there's nothing such as a free lunch, right? So there's absolutely nothing free. Every single part of that process, I had to pay for. So I was paying for the product from the lab, which is creating the supplements. Then I was paying them to slap my label on it, right? Then I would pay them to ship it to Amazon fulfillment warehouse. Then I would pay Amazon to to take the inventory first, right? So whatever they call that charge, to take the inventory and put their label, because Amazon has a little barcode that goes onto every product, which is separate from your label. So there would be that charge. And then when someone orders my product, there would be a pick and pack and ship fee. So there's fees on every side of those, every single thing that happens. But it was still profitable because there's a huge markup on supplements and different things like that. So you just have to know your numbers. You just have to look at everything as a cost of doing business and run the numbers and make sure it's viable.
Exactly. Precisely why you need to have a plan, a pricing plan, a market plan for as you roll out your operations. You need to understand what those are. All right. Thanks, Kevin. And I'll pass it over to Cleo.
Thanks, Gilbert. You guys covered quite a lot of you touched on different points that need to be covered, and I hope that I could bring it all together now for everyone into the sales and marketing strategy. There are a few things that you want to be aware of that you need to make sure that you check off as you set out to develop your sales and marketing strategy. And it doesn't matter whether or not you're already operating in e-commerce, or if you are just beginning to test the waters, you're just getting there. There are some things that you need to look at. And you need to look at the goal of your foray into e-commerce. Of course, there's always the fact, that you need to get some funds in. Perhaps you're looking at expanding your markets and getting some foreign currency. But surrounding that goal is always the need to create awareness, to create interest, to create desire, and to spur your customers and potential customers into action. You need to do some research. You need to research your target market, your competitors, and the channels that you are going to sell from and that you are going to promote from. And then you need to wrap it all up, your product strategy, your operations strategy, and all of your research, your goals and objectives into your marketing strategy. Novia looked at your products, and I'm going to look a little bit at pricing, at the channels, your advertising and promotions, and the customer service that you should be offering in your e-commerce strategy. So your goals. You have decided what you want to do, whether it's the fact that you're just coming into the e-commerce platform or you're there already and you're trying to refine your strategy. You are going to want to create some awareness. And with your awareness, you're looking at visibility. How often you are seen, where you are seen. You need to look at creating some chatter. People need to start talking about your business. And then you look at the frequency with which you are posting. So it can't be something that you do on the odd occasion when you have the time. Once you've decided to go into your e-commerce and you are looking at rolling out your strategy, you have to have a level of frequency. You have to have time to commit to the process. Once you've created the awareness, you need to create some interest. And this can be done in several ways, whether it's a product or a service. You can look at describing the use of your product. You can look at getting some people to perhaps give some tutorials on how the product is used. You need to point out to people how it solves some of the needs that they have and why they should be using your product or your service. When all of that is done, you need to create the desire. You want to move them from, interesting, to wow, I need that. And you have to find a compelling way to create that desire. And one of the things you can look at is getting some customer-generated content on your product or service where they offer a testimonial to say, yes, I have used this. I've used this accounting service. And one of the things I've found is that they not only prepare my documents, but they walk me through the process and they actually help me to be able to prepare it on my own. Maybe you need to offer something that's attractive, or you need to get an influencer to represent you. And once you've created that desire, once people find that this is something that they have to have, you need to drive them to action. Whether it is to buy, to share your information, to like, to follow, to subscribe, you need to find a way to drive them to action. So I'll give you an example. You might be into health foods and you're selling, let's say, flaxseed, linseed, I don't know how you refer to it in your neck of the woods. But there's several uses for flaxseed. So perhaps you want to create some awareness around flaxseed. You start telling people, in the month of July, it's flaxseed month. We're going to run some promotions on flaxseed. And you keep posting about the fact that you're going to be focusing on flaxseed in the month of July. And that's where you're creating your awareness. You create some interest by saying, listen, do you know that flaxseed is a great source of protein? It could help to reduce your levels of cholesterol. It could help fight against cancer. And hey, there's one more thing. Do you know you can make an excellent hair gel from flaxseed? So you create the interest by showing the multiplicity of uses and perhaps even getting someone to make some flaxseed gel and post that as a tutorial on your platforms. Then you create the desire. You have people talking about the fact that they've used flaxseed gel for different purposes. When they went to the doctor and they did their blood work, their cholesterol was at this level, and because they've been using the flaxseed consistently, their cholesterol levels came right down. Or for somebody like me who has natural hair, I might be saying, look, I tried all of these other things, made in China, made here, made everywhere else, and then I decided to try this flaxseed gel, and it has worked wonders. And then, of course, once all of that is done, you want to drive them to some action. So it might be that you want me to share my experience with other people so that when you start your promotion, when you start the activity in July, you have people who are just waiting to buy. So those are the things that you need to look at when you're setting your goals and what it is you want to achieve at that stage of your campaign. And then you look at your target market. Yeah, the whole world could be your target market. And as Novia said earlier, the figures for e-commerce globally is about, 20 million, Novia? 20 billion thereabouts. And so there is a lot of market space, but you have to be realistic. As she said, in terms of your products, and as Bert said, in terms of the operations and the logistics, and as Kevin said, in terms of your being able to fulfill the segment of the market that you've chosen. You also need to look at who makes up your target market. You might be thinking, as Novia said, that millennials drive the e-commerce market. Yeah, because they're more online. But have you given thought to the fact that perhaps your mother or my mother might actually be somebody that you can target online? These people tell you that, oh, I don't have time for Facebook. Me, no, I don't deal with YouTube and those things. But my mother can tell me and send me clips of things that she's seen on Facebook and on YouTube. So don't ignore a particular set of the market because you think that they are not there. They are there, but you need to do your research to find out where they are and how you can reach them. My mother may not be able to shop, but she's going to see your advertisement and she will send it to me and tell me, get that for me. I need to get those things. So segment your market properly, look at the size of the market that you're sharing, look at the people who are in your market, and look at how you're going to reach those people and whether or not you can actually serve the people who you've chosen to serve in your market. You need to establish your unique selling proposition. What is it about you that sets you above your competitors? Is it that you have an outstanding customer service program? Is it that your prices are better? Is it that the quality of your stuff is better than anybody else's? Or is it that you operate in a niche that only you can fill? Establish what your unique selling proposition is. Analyze your competitors. It doesn't mean that because they are there, you cannot enter. There may be things that they are not doing correctly that you can build on and improve on. Or there may be things that they are doing correctly, which eliminates the need for you to recreate the wheel. You can copy, look at what works for them, and try it out and see how it works for you. And as I said, do a trial. So after you've decided what the market segment is, and you know what your unique selling proposition is, and you've analyzed your competitors and you see what they're doing, put it all together, do a trial run with a segment of your target audience, and actually test your theories and see if it works. And if it doesn't, it's a good time for you to step back and to reassess whatever it is you came up with initially and try to refine it to make it as effective as possible. It is not something that you want to roll out and then have to fix it after you've rolled it out. You want to be able to get it right the very first time. You research your competitors. Who are they? Are they people who actually are direct competitors of yours? If you're doing hairdressing, is it that your competitors are hairdressers as well? Is it that your competitors are wig makers? Are your competitors people who sell hair dyes? It could be competitors who are competing with you directly or people who have substitutes for what you do. So I might be a hairdresser who does relaxers and, I don't know, weaves or whatever, but then there may be somebody who does braiding. That is competition because depending on how appealing they make their services, they can actually knock you out of the market. And I know it is not a product, but it's not just products that have to be available online. You can have a service and you have a window to your service. But if you were having a product, perhaps you might be selling, I don't know, bowls. If you sell bowls in the Caribbean, people are looking at bowls for desserts and maybe for soups. If you sell bowls in China, maybe they're looking for it for, I don't know, just to wash their fingers after a meal or to drink their tea. So look at your competitors and look at the different uses of the products and how they will compete against you. What is their appeal? Is it that their stuff is like world-class quality? Is it that their stuff is cheaper than yours? Is it just that their promotion strategy is more engaging and they get a lot of likes and comments and shares? Look at what they are doing and see if there's anything that you can take from their promotion strategy, their e-commerce strategy, or if you need to step away from what they are doing and build your own strategy and look at how they're meeting their customers. Are they finding them online? Are they augmenting their online promotion, their digital promotion, with perhaps some newspaper and radio advertisements? Because again, as I said, you're not just looking at the youngsters who are online 24/7, you're also looking at older people who they may also be online, but they may not be going online as often as youngsters would be going. So you need to find them where they are, get your message to them, get them into action by sending them to their children, their grandchildren, the neighbors' daughters, to order whatever it is you're offering online. Choose your space. Are you going to choose your platform based on the regions that they serve and the countries that they operate in? Amazon operates in 58 countries, yes. And so therefore you have a lot of reach. But Amazon's online population is over 1 billion people. Is that a space that you want to fight up in? There's Mercado Libre, but they serve the Latin American market primarily. They serve 9 countries. They have over 340-something million people who they serve. Is that a place that you want to actually compete in? Do your products serve the people, or your services serve the people of that region? Will you be seen if you find yourself on those platforms? We are predominantly in the Caribbean. Maybe you could be looking at a platform that offers you access to our market and start there. Take baby steps and then build out. FNIF, for example, can offer you a market space of 44 million people. That ain't half bad. That's a good place to start. And then if that works, over time, you redevelop your strategy and you move on from there. And you're looking at the online population I just mentioned. The Caribbean alone has 44 million people. Look at the cost of the platform that you're using. Kevin said that he found that by doing his fulfillment by Amazon program, he had to pay for his fingernails, he had to pay for the ink, he had to pay for sneezing, he had to pay for every little thing. Look at the cost of the platform that you're using. Do they charge you per transaction? Do they charge you by the volume of sales? Do they have a cutoff for the amount that you can sell per month or per year? Can you afford to operate on that platform? Or do you need to find a platform, do some more research and find a platform that is more affordable to you? Look at the ease of use of the platform that you're choosing. So you may want to look at perhaps a platform that will load your products and services and your descriptions. You may want to look as well at a platform that can offer you some back-end support. So it's not just about selling. It's not about having a window to your market. It's also about managing your business behind the scenes. A lot of you do what you do, and you do a brilliant job at what you do. But the other areas of your business suffer. Your marketing suffers. Your inventory management suffers. Your accounting suffers. So maybe you want to look at a platform that is a one-stop shop and relieves you of the pressure of having to look at all of those things, plus produce what you produce to the best of your ability. You want to look at the types of businesses served by the platforms that you offer. Some platforms are very specialist in their client bases. They cater maybe to creatives only or to wholesalers only. So you need to know what your platform offers and who it offers it to before you jump on and say, yeah, I can do that. Or you invest in it and find that it doesn't serve you very well. I spoke about the business support and the capabilities of the platform that you choose. I would like to talk about customer service and support a little bit. How will you get support? And when will you get support? And is there a cost to that support? So for some platforms, they actually charge you for what they call premium support, where you can call them 24 hours a day, or you can chat with someone 24 hours a day. Some people take, 24 hours, 48 hours to respond to you. Look at the reviews. When they actually respond to you, can they solve the problems that you have? Those are things that should be considered. Payment processing is also important. You want to get a platform that can process your payments. You don't need a third-party intervention. When you do your transactions on FNIV, FNIV pays the money to your account, or the money goes directly to your account. It doesn't go to the account of Cleo Huggins to be transferred at some later date to the account of Chic Concepts or, I don't know, Spencer Accounting, whatever it is. You need to be able to ensure that the payment processing facility works in your country. There are restrictions in certain countries. PayPal doesn't operate well. It doesn't support us in the Eastern Caribbean. So we need to make sure that the solutions offered by your e-commerce platform work for you, and that they can be integrated if you're not using an external source and you're using your own website, that they can be integrated into your website. As Novia mentioned, security is a big issue. It is a big issue. People refuse to go online, even in 2020, because they are afraid of the risk of their life savings being taken away from them by some youngster, 16 years old, who knows the internet and the world of digital technology inside out. You need to be able to reassure your clients that they can do business with you on your site because there's no risk to their security. Again, going back to cost, are they offering free trials? Can you test the waters and see if that's something that you're comfortable with first before you jump in? A lot of companies offer what they call freemiums, where they allow you to choose a platform, to use their platform for whether it's 14 days or 30 days free trial, and then there's no risk of a commitment. If you don't like it, you can jump out and you can move on. So yes, you need to research your platforms and your channels before you make a decision. But once you've had all of that done, you've established your goals, you've looked at your target markets, you've looked at your channels, then you need to start putting your strategy together. In terms of your pricing, is your price competitive with the other people who are on the platforms or who serve the target markets that you serve? So if you're selling dresses, handmade dresses, your claim to fame is that your dresses are all hand sewn and they are perfectly stitched. But there's somebody else, maybe in Cuba, who's offering the same set of products as you are. Are your products the same price as theirs? When you add the cost of shipping to those products, can your clients afford them? Novia mentioned bundling. People are looking for value. Maybe you need to look at bundling your dresses, perhaps with a nice head wrap, or maybe some customized slippers, something that makes what you offer in terms of your pricing attractive to your target market. So your bundle might cost $15 more than a single dress from another supplier. But when I look at the value that I am getting and the cost of shipping and every other cost associated with getting that product from your warehouse to my home, I might actually find that more appealing. I might find as well that even though I'm paying $15, I can get a dress for myself, a head wrap for my mother, and slippers for my sister, because that's just how the things could be broken up. So look at your pricing strategy and see how competitive you are with the other people on your platform. Novia spoke extensively about products, so I'm not going to talk about that anymore. Look at your channels. Are you using your website to sell from? Are you using Facebook to sell from? Are you using an e-commerce platform to sell from? If you're using your website, can your website handle e-commerce? Is your website optimized? Did you develop it yourself or did you get someone to develop it for you? There are some questions that you want to ask if someone is doing it for you or if you're doing it for yourself. How do people see my website? How do I make sure that they can find my website? Are the links on my website working? Am I linked with anybody? And when I say linked with anybody, there may be several directories or other websites where you can list your website. And that mention on those external websites could help drive traffic back to your website. So you want to make sure that you have that level of connectivity. And then you look at your branding. Your branding is important. Your branding has to be consistent. It has to be recognizable. You have to be visible. And your branding is not just about your logo. Your branding is also about how you speak to your clients, how you engage them, where you engage them, what you are offering. Your branding is also about how you are perceived in the marketplace that you operate in. Do people see you as a low-cost, low-budget item, or do they perceive you to be a premium product that they're willing to spend a lot of money for? Or do they see you as a cheap product that costs a lot of money and is a total waste of time? You have to establish your positioning and make sure that what you think of your business is actually what other people think about you. Your advertising and promotions. Are you using Facebook? Are you using Twitter? Are you using YouTube? Are you using Instagram? And all of these things should send your customers right back to your website or to the platform where they can purchase your goods. So if you're doing a Facebook ad, maybe your call to action should be visit our website or buy now, which would direct people to your website or to your e-commerce platform. Look at the content of the material that you are offering to your clients. Do they understand what it is you are promoting? Do they understand what you are offering? Can they make a decision based on the information that you have presented to them? These are things that have to be considered as well. And then your customer service and relationship building. Customer service is not just about making sure that your customers are happy. It gives you the opportunity to do some primary research, some really valuable first-hand research. And I think this is an area where we fall short a lot of the times. We don't really leverage the value of customer service. Looking at their feedback, interacting with them, getting testimonials from them based on the fact that you have served them well, or even if they had a problem, they were able to come to you and say, listen, I have this problem, I need you to fix it. Once your customers are happy, as Gilbert said, you do not want a better sales force. They will help you promote the message that you want to send and help you build the market that you want to build. Now, I think I have gone on a bit, and I am perhaps close to the time when we should be getting ready to wrap up. But what I want for you to remember is that you have to research. Look at your strategy, look at what it is you want, look at where you are in the level of your business. Is it that you're looking for awareness? Is it that you're looking for interest? Are you wanting people to buy? Are you wanting people to share? You have to do your research on your target market, on your competitors, on the platforms that you want to use. Once you've done your research, you need to develop your strategy. And your strategy needs to look at what you're offering, who you're competing with, where you are going to be offering your products, and what it is you want to achieve at the end of your stint online and in front of your market. And of course, you need to keep evolving. Use the analytics that are available to you from the platforms that you are using and see how you can refine your presence online, how you can be more effective in your e-commerce sales, and how you can keep growing and keep remaining relevant. I have said a lot. Kevin, I just want to ask you quickly. You've been online a lot, whether as a client, as a service provider, or as someone who's actually operating a business online. What are some of the do's and don'ts that you would add to what I've just said?
You said quite a lot. Do's and don'ts with respect to what? With respect to what portion of what you presented.
In terms of perhaps based on the business, whether it's a service business or a product business, what platforms they would want to choose, or perhaps a certain strategy that you think they might want to follow?
Okay, I mean, so I think you kind of covered that, which is what you're offering will dictate what you choose or what process you go through to make a decision. So some people are offering physical products, some people are offering services. Some of those services can be delivered remotely. Some of those services need to be in a certain geographical area. So all of those things make a difference in what you're going to choose. So in terms of the stuff that I would say that it's kind of difficult because it really depends on what you're doing. So if we're talking about physical products, for example, and if it's a perishable versus if it's something that has a long shelf life, there's so many different variables. So it really, really depends. It's kind of broad. I would say this, which is kind of to wrap up what I spoke about and what I want to leave the attendees with is, which is not your question, so I just want to preface that, is basically saying that sales and marketing, in my opinion, is the number one thing with business, right? Because you can have the best products, and if nobody knows about it, it doesn't matter. And you can have a substandard product with great marketing and sales, and everybody knows about it, and you make a killing. For example, McDonald's, all right? Everybody can make a better hamburger in their home than what McDonald's does, right? But they are multi-billion-dollar corporation worldwide because of their sales and marketing, not because of the quality of the product, right? So I'm not saying have a crappy product. I'm just trying to impress upon all the attendees how important, in my opinion, sales and marketing is. So you want to have a great product, you want to have all the other things, you have to have your I's dotted, your T's crossed with, even the e-commerce platform and all of that stuff, but you have to get eyeballs on your stuff. So getting onto the platform is one thing, but in my opinion, sales and marketing is where you should focus to really push the product and get it out there.
And if I could just add to that, just add to that, Kevin, sales and marketing is important, but sometimes a little bit of creativity helps in that you can leverage your own brand or the brand of a friend or a colleague to help you promote your product. So take for example, this necklace. This necklace was made by a craftsperson in St. Vincent. And this craftsperson could be looking at sessions like this where there are webinars and looking at the hosts and saying, oh, this girl from St. Vincent is on. Let me get her to put my necklace on. And then I can use this necklace. I can now take pictures of myself and say, wow, look at this. This really completed my outfit. I'm not saying that I'm an influencer, but I'm saying that people are seeing the product and they're seeing how it is used and how it works. And this person also gets to promote her product because I'm saying, oh, look, this is necklace by whoever. And people get to see somebody who apparently is in the public eye and who's a public figure using the material. And that kind of endorsement is invaluable and sometimes something that you really can't put a value on.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think where we are not seeing it is it's still sales and marketing, so that is marketing. And believe it or not, you are an influencer. As long as you have people looking at you, you're influencing them. So you are an influencer. And when you are wearing a product like the necklace and other people see it, and they ask, for example, where'd you get that nice necklace? That is what we call word of mouth marketing, right? And that is what we call in the online world third-party proof. Because if you're talking about someone else who created this necklace, that's great third-party proof, and it's a recommendation. It still is marketing. It's just free marketing, word of mouth. But yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. So creativity with the marketing as well. But yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. So it's all marketing for me. It's just different types. So that's free marketing, word of mouth. Yeah.
Kevin, thanks so much. I don't want to get strangled. So I'm passing.
We are over time. I was just giving you guys a few minutes to wrap up, but unfortunately we're out of time.
We're up.
We see that over 300 colleagues stayed on till this minute, but unfortunately we have to wrap up. I just want to point out that for the majority of the questions we have in the back end been responding to those questions. So thank you so much to those of you from the region and outside for your questions. We hope that this presentation left you with much food for thought in terms of action items for you to go back to your strategies and refine, or those that are in development that you know what to do. For those questions in relation to the e-payments, the issues with regard to logistics, Amazon, and so forth, we will look at these in more detail over the next 2 weeks. So just to give signal that next week, Friday, we will look at the internet, the infrastructure, ICT solutions, e-payments, and the types of websites. And then the following week, we will look at logistics and shipping. So thank you to Cleo, to Gilbert, Kevin, and Novia, and of course to Caroline. Thank you so much. And just before we close, I ask that if you spend a few minutes to fill out our feedback questionnaire, we'll be very grateful. And you could always drop us a line, but we will go through the questions. The platform allows us to see questions that we would be able to send to the team, and they could provide you with a response. So thank you again. Thank you so much. And we will see you next week.